What's up everybody? In this episode of the KTM 250 rebuild we're going to start with the top end rebuild. We will take the cylinder and the piston off and we will prepare everything so we can put it back together in the next episode. Now a little bit about the progress of the channel. We already got 24 subscribers. I really want to thank everybody that subscribed already, and if you haven't subscribed yet you can really help out the channel by doing so. And now let's take apart the top end of the KTM 250. So we're going to take a look at the piston, and I most likely want to replace it because we have the whole bike apart now, so it's more convenient to do it now as well. So let's have a look. So via the exhaust port of the engine you can see the piston, and by moving the kickstart you can move it in a certain position. So you can see if there are any scratches on the piston, and also a good sign to look at is if there is any black marks below the piston rings. I don't know if you can see it, but for all convenience we're just going to remove the cylinder, and then we're going to have a full overview of the piston. So we're just going to do that now. First I'm going to remove the spark plug. Then we can remove the covers of the power valve and the coolant hose. And this is a T25 Torx. Then we have a rod that is operating the power valve. So to be able to get the cylinder off, we need to pull this one off the mechanism of the power valve. And to do that you just need to pull this spring to your side. So we're just going to use a small screwdriver and we can just push it gently to this side and then get it down. So that's all. And then we can push it off. Doesn't need too much force, so shouldn't be hard to do. Then we need to get this cover off as well. So to be able to get the cylinder off the engine, we need to push the power valve up. So because we got this rod off, we can freely move the power valve. So we can move it up, and then that gives us enough room to get the nuts of the cylinder off. So now we're going to get these four nuts off. Gives you just enough room, but I need to get a wrench with the ring, so you can get it more easily around there. Nice thing is that there's a lot of oil in here, so quite easy to get the nut off. And now we can lift the cylinder off. Steadily. So there we have the piston. So as you can see, the piston is quite black underneath the piston rings, so that means when there is an explosion above the piston, some pressure gets lost via the piston rings. So these piston rings are not closing the piston to the cylinder off as good as they did in the beginning. So that is a good indication that your piston needs to be replaced, or your piston rings if your piston looks very nice. But in this case we can see quite some scratches as well on the piston, and then it's quite shiny already. So we're just going to replace it and then we have a fresh start. So what we're going to do is get the piston off and these sealings on the foot of on the bottom of the cylinder. But what you have to take in mind is that these sealings need to have a certain fit. So when you can imagine, when you have a higher sealing, the cylinder is going to be higher up. When the cylinder is higher or lower, that depends also on how your engine is performing. So we need to have an exact fit, or the same thickness that we had before. So we're going to take this sealing and the cylinder together with the piston to a KTM dealer, and then they are going to measure the sealings and the cylinder. So we're going to have a look if the cylinder is still okay and if it doesn't need to be polished again. And when you take your cylinder to a dealer, they are going to measure the width of the cylinder so they can see which size of piston needs to go in there. So you can imagine if your cylinder has worn out a little bit, you can get a bigger piston, and that way your compression gets higher again. So that means a better running engine. So we're going to take the piston off and the sealings off, and then we're going to take everything to a dealer, and then we're going to see what we need. So we're going to get this spring out, and then we can push the piston rod out, and then we can get the piston off there. So usually I hold it with the plier and then push it up with a screwdriver. That way it doesn't fly away. Now we should be able to push this rod through. So we're going to replace the whole set with piston bearing. So we're going to take that as well. Let's take the sealing off. To prevent anything from falling in, we're just going to close it off. So that's it. We're going to take everything to the dealer, and then we're going to see what we need, and then we will come back. See you in a minute. So we're back from the dealership. I went to Andre Motors. It's a dealership of KTM that's quite close by. So they have everything I need. So I got a nice top-end piston kit, which includes the piston bearings, wrist pin, circlips, and top-end gasket set. So it includes all the gaskets that you need for replacing your piston, and also wrist pin bearing. Yeah, it's basically a complete kit to rebuild your top end. A nice new piston with the rings and the wrist pin and the other clips. So in here you have different gaskets. The gaskets of the power valve, and the gaskets of your cylinder, so the bottom part. So you basically have everything you need in one set. We're just going to replace everything. So basically what we did at the dealership, we took the cylinder head off, we flattened it out and cleaned it and polished the inside of the cylinder. You polish the inside of your cylinder so it forms a pattern of scratches in there, which creates a nice oil film when your piston goes up and down in there. So there actually need to be a little bit of scratches in there. So after we polished it, we put the cylinder head back on there with a new gasket that were rubber rings, and we put the cylinder head cap screws back in there with new copper rings. So now we have everything to build it up again. So now we're going to clean the cylinder. So all the remainings of the gaskets, we are going to sand them off with very soft sanding paper, or not paper, but I don't know what to call it, but we're going to clean it off, and the other side also, and then we're going to clean the whole thing with some cleaner in here, and we have some nice brushes to get all the dirt and all the oil off there. So after we did that to the cylinder, we are also going to do it with the engine itself, so that we can put everything back together. So we're first going to get all the remainings of the gaskets of the cylinder. We will start with the bottom of the cylinder and then just do the two sides of the power valve as well. So the remainings of the gasket, they will form sort of dust, and you need to make sure that that doesn't stay in the cylinder. So it would be nice to have a compressor with some air to blow everything away. So that's starting to look nice and polished. So you can see we have a nice shiny surface. There's no green gasket on there anymore. Let's do the sides. So now the surfaces are nice and clean. So now we're going to clean the surface for the gaskets on the engine. So now we have everything, or all the surfaces for the gaskets nice and clean. Also around the rod of the power valve, because this cover is going to slide over this here. We're going to put some liquid seal between this. First we're going to clean everything with brake cleaner. So now all the oil and fluids are off there. It's nice and clean. So this one is ready to be put back together. That was all for this episode. We have everything in place for the next episode, in which we can build the top end back up again. So keep your eyes open for the next episode. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell to make sure you don't miss it. If you like the content, give a thumbs up to the video and feel free to leave a comment or a question in the comment section. See you next time.